Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Tap into sustainable and active packaging technologies to improve your seafood offerings, brought to you by Seafood Source and sponsored by Aptar. We have a few housekeeping notes to go over before we get started. If you need any technical assistance, we first recommend refreshing your browser. If you continue to have technical questions or issues using the On24 platform, please use the Q&A box and I will respond as soon as I can. There will be no call-in number for today's session. To connect, you need to have access to either a computer, tablet, or cell phone audio. Everyone has been muted. So that you don't miss any shared content or an opportunity to share valued feedback with us, we recommend that you enable pop-ups within your browser. If you happen to get disconnected, you can log on again using the instructions provided in your webinar confirmation email. If you continue to have trouble, please email info@seafoodsource.com and we'll respond as soon as we can. For your convenience, everything in the webinar console is fully customizable, so you can move things around, resize the window, and even turn on captions for this event. At the bottom of your console, you'll also find a resources box where you can download the slides as well as any additional content for today's presentation. Once again, regarding questions, you can ask a question at any time during the presentation by submitting it through the Q&A box window. We'll leave time at the end of the session to answer as many questions as time allows. And finally, this webinar will be recorded and you'll receive a thank you email with the on-demand materials within 2 business days. And with that out of the way, I would like to introduce our speaker for today. We'll hear from Krista Biggs, Manager of Business Development at Aptar. Krista holds a bachelor's in biology and a master's degree in food technology. She has a background in food laboratory testing with a focus on microbiology, as well as experience with food packaging research and development. She is the Manager of Business Development at Aptar Food Protection, where she provides technical sales services for new and existing active packaging technologies. At this time, I'd like to welcome our speaker and hand the webinar off to Krista.
Great. Thanks so much, Shavim. My webinar today is on various technologies that I think may be misunderstood and possibly therefore underutilized in the industry. From our experience this year, meaning Aptar, the seafood industry has been much more receptive than ever maybe for innovation and generally speaking, just really in search of what's out there. So with this overview of widely untapped packaging technologies and information, I do hope to provide new ideas to the audience today. Like Doveen said, my name is Krista Biggs. I do represent the Aptar Food Protection Business Unit. My background is in a lot of different food technologies. As she said, I spent the early years of my career working in third-party microbiology labs, specifically in food, across all the United States. And then I did research and development with Aptar for some time before joining the business development teams. Here's my agenda. I'm going to briefly introduce who Aptar is and then move into addressing the state of the market in seafood, consumers, as well as packaging. We'll look at some trends, some definitions, and various offerings I think sometimes the industry is not aware of, or at least not aware of how advanced they are and where those technologies are headed. Then lastly, I will also introduce newly commercial technologies here at Aptar. And of course, we can wrap up with any questions. Who is Aptar? Aptar has been in the market for 75 years. We're headquartered in Chicago with $3.5 billion in sales globally. We trade on the New York Stock Exchange. We manufacture all over the world and are known really for our transformative type of packages. We really have a history of changing supply models with packaging and growing market shares for our customers through very innovative and transformative solutions. This slide does show that global manufacturing footprint where we serve over 5,000 of the world's leading brands. We have 13,000 employees across 20 countries. We do all of these great things while still being a very sustainable company. We know that packaging is an important component of any product and that it contributes significantly to a company's overall impact. These accolades reflect our commitment to sustainability in those endeavors. We're very focused on measuring and improving our impacts on the environment, as well as the life cycle of all of our products. These are just some of our top recognitions that we like to call out. Just to rattle off a few, we were number 76 on Barron's 100 Most Sustainable. We were number 1 on Forbes Green Growth 50 list, number 10 in Newsweek's Most Responsible, but number 1 in our industry category with Newsweek, as well as several others globally. Something a little closer to home that some people may know, we were the pioneer partner for PureCycle in the US, where we are using their ultra pure recycled polypropylene, and we use that back into some of our products. Just briefly about who we are, how we work, our culture. We are a group who lives and works with a purpose and always stand by our core values. Our goal with what we build is to improve the daily lives of people everywhere. We always act ethically and responsibly with focus on building long-term partnerships. We foster a culture that recognizes value and strength of a diverse team. And of course, we care for each other and our planet. I've used this word transformative to help describe our products, but I really can't emphasize the word enough to better explain what we do at Aptar. We have a broad product portfolio across these 3 market segments, so pharma, beauty, home products, food, and beverage. Through packaging, we have made your everyday lives more convenient and more safe. We've brought back dying brands and further helped them take more market share than their competitors. Some examples of items you would be familiar with. We engineered the upside down condiments like ketchup, mayonnaise, Daisy sour cream, which was a tough one, and plenty others in that space. A newer success was doing that same thing for Dawn dish soap. We played a large role in COVID test kits. We manufacture 95% of the world's diabetic test strip vials with a very special moisture control environment inside of those. Those have to stay very dry. We do something similar for shelf-stable probiotics. We even have moisture control parts in heart monitors, which is pretty cool. So through packaging and packaging conversion and packaging technologies, we do develop and offer a variety of very unique components and solutions. My favorite fun fact is you use around 7 of our products daily. You just may not know that it was ours. And then this last section is on active material science. That's where my business unit kind of lives. It's my space. And it was within this group where we leveraged some of these technologies for seafood about 6 years ago. And we've been in this market ever since. Our active packaging division is referred to as Aptar CSP. We joined the Aptar group in 2018. Our manufacturing and research teams are all in Auburn, Alabama, or Atlanta, Georgia. We're very proud of our 600 plus patents, many of which are related to the active packaging that we work on. And then one final note on Aptar, because we do manufacture and engineer special functions for otherwise traditional looking packaging, it's, again, not always the Aptar name that people know, and that's fine. What's important is understanding we are a very key behind the scenes partner for some of the world's largest brands. Here being some of those leading food brands across the globe, to include where our seafood offerings are. So let's talk about seafood. There's a lot of topics top of mind for seafood harvesters and suppliers right now, but packaging alone, I think, can help some of those. Most of us know what the trends are from a high level, but I want to dig into a few details relating to the top trends in the market and with consumers. Value conscious choices. Consumers, they really continue to look at seafood as a special occasion item. Unfortunately, that even goes for the more common and versatile items like salmon and shrimp. Consumers want to save on time and money without compromising on taste and values. Consumer data from Circana shows that over half of seafood shoppers looked for sales and deals more often last year. So as you can imagine, private label's been really strong for that reason. There's a really big focus on promotions and private label brands. We also all like to pick on younger generations. So Gen Z is the generation of hot topics right now. They want their brands to stand for something, just as they do. They love to express personal values and they really emphasize self-expression. So naturally, they prefer to work with brands that do the same. They enjoy shopping at the store more and they expect more from their foods and the way that it's packaged. Wellness. We all know that wellness stays top of mind for attracting seafood eaters. But even though consumers are seeking deals, they're still wanting ways to upscale the everyday. Packaging can help that feeling of upscale. Younger consumers are driving growth and shopping with their values. They like experiences and are even much more flexible on trying new and unique seafood varieties beyond traditional options. Of course, packaging is top of mind as we look at sustainability topics today, but consumers are also increasingly interested in seafood sourced from sustainable fisheries and sustainable aquaculture practices. You guys are probably familiar with certifications like the Marine Stewardship Council or the Aquaculture Stewardship Council. Both of those are continuously gaining importance. I think a lot are required now for many of the US retailers. Consumers are also increasingly aware of the environmental impacts of that food itself, especially seafood. So we're going to highlight in a few slides how we can leverage packaging to make these sustainable connections with shoppers. I think it's really important that we tell that story while still offering a price-oriented value. Convenience is back full force post-COVID, and people are more likely and more open to using shortcuts. I know I do on those busy weeks. Sometimes packaging for me makes all the difference in saving time. 210 Analytics talks about how the new hybrid meal and how that has taken over America's kitchens with our increasing home-centered worlds. We're eating out a little less and doing more of that cooking ourselves. Really, really liking those shortcuts. This oftentimes means value-added food and provided convenience. And things like that are winning in every category. Convenience does extend beyond at-home meal prep, though. It drives on-the-go items. It opens up a lot of opportunities for innovation in packaging. Transparency. Consumers are interested in knowing where their seafood comes from, how it was raised or caught. It is increasingly valued, as we said, by consumers to have information about the origin. These younger generations are much more concerned about what they're buying and demand an honest, sustainable, and a very clean product. I think seafood has an advantage there on the clean piece. There's a huge consumer distrust of large food manufacturers and, of course, artificial ingredients. Just a general perception there of lack of transparency across the board. Seafood advantage, I think, is being able to have that clean label with ingredients that consumers can understand. A few last ones. E-commerce has stayed strong. Meal kits and other ready-to-eat meals shipped straight to your door. We've probably all partaken in some of those activities. This naturally takes a very different packaging approach in level of robustness and allows for, almost requires a different marketing approach as well. You've got to be sure that your digital platforms are user-friendly and that it's getting across those sustainable, convenient, transparency messages while still delivering a food at a decent price with a positive experience. So those in e-commerce probably know to do all that is not so easy. Plant-based everything is still trying to master their recipes. They want to feel very realistic in taste, texture, mouthfeel. But what I really like here is the focus on value add. Value add is fantastic. It's growing. It's convenient. It's tasty. It's attractive on the shelf. We can put it in some type of cookable package. It's really offering a restaurant level of flavor, but without that price tag. That's why I wrote colors here. A big trend outside of seafood in the flavors and ingredients world is a huge emphasis on color being at the epicenter of food, meaning adding content and color to our plates. If you've heard of Heritage Tradition Foods, they're one that I think is a really cool example. Their goal is to connect people with home and culture. So they're using more obscure regional ingredients and recipes. They're really preparing cuisines that are not monolithic. For our product development people in the Cole, maximizing pleasure through these forms of global flavors and colorful ingredients also definitely contributes to that upscale, upscaling that everyday meal. The trend is particularly evident in Asian flavors. It also seems that spicy is here to stay. Pepper infused products of all sorts are most popular. So I thought that was an abstract idea outside of seafood that could directly impact offerings in the value added seafood space. These trends somewhat apply to all food, but I think we should empathize that with seafood it becomes a little more difficult because seafood is the most globally traded agricultural commodity. The FAO estimates that seafood trade is worth almost just as much as the combined value of pork, beef, and poultry. So there's a ton of moving parts, and naturally that's adding cost and complexity. That makes our collective efforts around a truly sustainable seafood system even more challenging. To add fuel to that fire, food waste topics are becoming more of a concern, even becoming part of audits. The FAO also tells us that 35% of all fish and seafood is wasted. But where it is wasted is way downstream in our homes and in stores. We as individuals, I think, can do better at home, continuous consumer education being a key point in helping that happen. But we could really spend a lot of time on the number of reasons it's wasted in retail and food service. Reasons like faulty cold chains, labor challenges, storage issues, and of course, what I want to look at today is a highlight on how packaging can hurt or help. So what are our key needs in packaging? Packaging essentially has four basic functions: protection, communication, convenience, and containment. It's one of the main processes for secure delivery and preservation before consumption. We have to have it. So here I want to look at some overall trends in packaging that are currently being addressed. Rising demand for sustainability. Some consumers say that the health of the planet is as important to them as their own health. Sustainability topics include carbon neutral, carbon zero, traceability, regenerative agriculture or aquaculture in our case, upcycling, and food waste reduction. Sustainability discussions in seafood, from what I normally watch and read, are primarily focused on the harvest and on marine life, but downstream in packaging plays a big role as well. Convenience and transparency. We will look at packaging solutions that can help with this, help with messaging, and help communicate quality, safety, and even shelf life to all stakeholders throughout the supply chain, adding to this transparency in the product. In retail, convenience is not just automation or availability, but also packaging. Convenience remains in high demand at the retail and grocery industry. But this extends far beyond meal kits and prepared foods. Part of consumers' grocery shopping experience matters with those personalized suggestions, packaging for on the go, or quick cook capabilities. E-commerce hasn't slowed down post-COVID. Retail themselves is betting big on e-commerce and automation to bring deflation and falling prices. Omni-channel marketing strategies are also evolving to target shoppers through their purchase journey, but particularly at that point of purchase. A recent survey of grocery shoppers revealed a third of consumers' most recent grocery trip was online. So these omni-channel shoppers, they're still expecting these frictionless experiences, whether it's online or in the store. And so for e-commerce, whether it's meal kits, ready-to-eat meals, or grocery delivery, This has all changed the way that we ship, the way that we merchandise and deliver, therefore requiring changes in packaging along the way. Connection. This is about the number of active digital shoppers and how those numbers continue to increase with delivery or scan and go. Walmart says that almost 1 in 3 transactions are done this way for them. There are also new AI-powered grocery carts. I haven't seen one, but new AI-powered grocery carts, like a group called Caper Carts by Instacart, that allows customers to bag their own groceries as they shop. This offers an additional way to run marketing and personalize ads or share recipes, or even it offers expanded storytelling for that traceability information. So I want to look at 3 commercial packaging options for seafood: intelligent, active, and sustainable. Of course, there can be a combination of 2 or more of these concepts, but the benefits of each lie in and around the same ideas. Through different mechanisms, they each provide improvements in shelf life, safety, transparency, and even waste. And why you would use one or the other, or a combination, boils down to your direct challenge or your customer requirements. Comes down to cost versus benefits, even regulatory is important, and even your specific supply chain. So all of these considerations would directly apply to how you would think about implementing one or more of these packaging solutions. The first one is intelligent packaging. It's actually been around since the 70s, and it has enormous potential, but it's not widely used as of yet. Intelligent packaging does not directly act to extend the shelf life of foods, but rather aims to convey information to a stakeholder of that food's supply chain. The stakeholder being a manufacturer or a retailer or a consumer, and that information being related specifically to that food's quality. The word intelligent here is referring to systems that monitor the condition of food and subsequently provide information on things like that food's quality, its transport, or its storage. So in a way, it can be used to guarantee authenticity in the industry by communicating something to the consumer that says when to eat this or to not eat this at all. From a science standpoint, it's an indication of why the shelf life of something is ending, what reaction is happening, measuring those kinetics on time versus reaction rates. And then you can use those kinetics to predict what type of intelligent packaging is needed. Here is some of the most representative intelligent technologies that are on the market: indicators, data carriers, sensors. So looking at the apples on the left, these are that little dot in the middle. They have a color changing time indicator telling the consumer when this apple is going from crispy to firm to juicy. There's similar indicator types for temperature that can tell the consumer when foods have been temperature abused, or for gas, when there is a gas leakage, or on the contrary, gas leak, oxygen detected inside of a package that otherwise shouldn't have it. And thermo indicators that would be temperature sensitive and could change color to let a consumer know whether the package is maybe hot or cold enough to eat. Data carriers can be used for track and trace devices. They can be leveraged by everyone throughout the supply chain. These carriers can be QR codes, and we can even print batteries with ink to help those data carriers. This is to do things like that. This is done with paperboard substrates for integrating into actual paperboard structure. So it's pretty cool. You've probably seen most of these types of examples on labels or display cases. If we have any wine drinkers on the call, 19 Crimes did a really cool one. They have a newly integrated QR code that they use to bridge the gap between history and technology. Their code, when you scan it, it offers an immersive augmented reality experience. So I thought that was really cool. And definitely something fun that the seafood industry could leverage. Sensors, some new examples being worked on in sensors are pathogen detection, like in quick serve restaurants for Listeria, for example, or E. coli. These sensors can also be used to trigger a responsive science, like an antimicrobial release or an antioxidant release. That release itself would fall under our next definition, but that sensor can act as the trigger. Examples of this are chlorine dioxide in fruits and vegetables, which is something that Aptar does, or zinc oxide in meats. Antioxidants in cereal is another example. Antioxidants get released slowly over time in a cereal package to prevent oxidation. They also release if that cereal sits in extreme heat. Things like this we see a lot more in B2B, but I think we'll start seeing it a lot more in retail. Overall, intelligent packaging, it does present a win-win situation for both retailers and consumers, but it does so by supporting freshness, supporting safety, supporting transparency, and therefore also waste. For the retailer alone, it really helps them in optimization of the stock rotation, leading to more sustainable supply and, of course, better profitable seafood department. Moving on to active packaging. When we say active, these are typically particles on the packaged food itself that the chemistry, it's only being able to happen inside of a closed package. The purpose is, just as we discussed, still to support freshness, safety, waste, and this is typically done through slowing down spoilage in some way with these active particles. But other goals can also be to improve texture or color or even flavor of seafood for longer periods of time. Active components and ultimately active packaging typically keeps volatiles within the package structure, and they only release when needed or when told to, like by a sensor like we just saw. Acts in the headspace, so that's what that little icon up to the right is trying to show. This active packaging is deliberately designed incorporated chemistries that release or absorb substances into or out of the food or the environment surrounding the food, meaning the headspace of that package. These active agents listed here, there's a ton of different kinds meant to do different things, but they can all be incorporated into a package in a variety of ways. Just a few ways that Aptar incorporates these are through injection molding. We also thermoform them. We can blow mold them. We also extrude them. There's just a few things that how you can get those active components inside of a package, so it truly becomes part of that package itself sometimes. The curious thing, though, is that despite all the advantages that it can provide, there's not many active packaging systems in the market for food. It's widely used in pharma, but not so much in food. This is likely related to the difficulties in bringing the technology to market. Some of those challenges, I know for us, include developing materials that work as well as they should for a particular food, meaning a lot of these chemistries listed here, they do act and work for some foods, but not all. I don't really know of any active packaging that's off the shelf. It's typically a custom idea. It's a custom per product, per package type, per distribution channel. So there's a lot of work that goes into a particular package for a particular product. Other challenges, of course, include meeting health and safety regulations, even gaining industry and consumer acceptance for that system. So you can imagine proving any new science is safe takes a long time with both consumers and regulators alike. Despite these challenges, there's still many instances of success, and in these cases, that additional cost has been far offset by the savings from the solution, and I'll show you one example of that. I have mentioned that Aptar is widely involved in pharma, with material science, but specific to seafood and active packaging, we did develop a product line called Seawell a few years ago for case ready. This helped change completely the supply chain for a large retailer in the USA, as well as the biggest names in meal kits. Seawell does what we mean when we say Seawell. It is referring to an absorbent technology inside of trays or pouches that allow high liquid fresh seafood to be displayed cleanly, or it can allow IQF seafood to be packed frozen at source and later defrosted inside the same package. Seawell technology absorbs all the excess purge from the seafood, preventing leaks and poor presentations. These are some images of that I actually took myself. They're images of why it was a success. This was and is still sometimes typical of e-commerce and case-ready seafood that has been defrosted. Consumers, as we know, perceive seafood as a premium purchase. However, the retail buying experience oftentimes provides a poor prepackaged presentation, limited visibility on a shelf, drips or leaks from the punctures, especially if it's something with the tail or sharp edge, and then ultimately messy handling for the consumer. Drawing attention to that cost analysis, as I mentioned, I know it's important to share how any packaging technology can impact top and bottom lines. Here were very credible market-based results as we started making one retailer switch from a traditional vacuum skin pack tray to a Seawell tray. In this instance, active packaging got the retailer double-digit increases in revenue on a few items within the first 6 months, as well as double-digit decreases in throwaways. This tells a fantastic sustainability story, as you can imagine. Over the next 5 years, from the beginning of this, they have adopted over 12 SKUs and ended up utilizing this type of packaging technology for other items. It also ultimately changed their supply chain, as I mentioned. This really told that Aptar transformative story that I mentioned in the beginning, where adopting active packaging innovations ultimately led to business model innovation. Those were some hard data, retailer results, because the consumer was having a much more positive experience with that buying and handling. But we did also receive voluntary consumer study. We did a lot of voluntary consumer studies for continuous improvement throughout the program. We did this where people would handle the package and provide feedback to help improve the overall program. And recently we found some online meal kit threads expressing gratitude for at-home handling improvements. After 5 years of success on that, we now have this active packaging available for all markets in seafood, so food service, retail, and home delivery. Lastly, I want to talk about sustainable packaging. It's acceptable to draw a sustainability story from any carbon reductions in your supply chain. When Seawell first launched, it was not a recyclable product, and I think the earlier trays were even a bit bulky, but this huge reduction in seafood waste stamps the whole program with the sustainability success. We will focus on sustainable packaging alone for the sake of what I want to talk about, but I have a note here as a reminder for everyone to always review a full life cycle analysis for understanding any carbon footprint. We all know how easy it is to kind of focus in on one area or even twist data by not painting a full picture. So that's a key point. So when we say sustainable packaging, it is a broad term that can encompass many different avenues. You can achieve a quote sustainable package through different ways. So here's some that maybe you might try. You can utilize recycled materials. This would obviously lessen the demand for virgin resources, which often do have a higher carbon footprint. You can design for recyclability. This would ensure that the packaging materials can be easily processed. Of course, you would have to understand recycling streams in your area and make sure that people have access to things like that. You can reduce wasted space in your packaging and materials, which would lead to less material use and, of course, more efficient transportation. You can even design for reuse of that packaging, where the package might be created with the intention of being repurposed, thus extending its life cycle and reducing waste. All of these are sustainable approaches. That's why when we look at any package, we need to look again at that whole life cycle, not trust data focused on one small piece of the manufacturing process. It's really critical to always look at the big picture, or the entire LCA life cycle analysis, as it's called. Aptar has done kind of a combination of this. We have done a combination of recycling and lightweighting plastics to reach a highly sustainable solution that we call HaloPack. HaloPack is a paper-based tray system that still has the robustness of and barrier properties of a full plastic tray. It's a product line that's been widely accepted in Europe with billions of containers sold, but it is just now making its way to the Americas. We're typically always a little bit more behind than Europe in these things. It's eco-friendly because of a 90% reduction in plastic components. So this is great for the California people on the call. The new EPR rule in California mandates lightweighting with a 25% plastic reduction by 2025 and among other bans by 2032. So it's very easy to recycle. We just recently got our How to Recycle logo, so seafood suppliers don't have to bother with that. They do several retail familiar sizes, and those sizes are ready and being manufactured now every day in Atlanta, Georgia. And then to add to your full life cycle analysis concept, it is important to note that the paperboard is made with FSC certified cardboard. So similar to the MSC or the ASC, this is about forestry, so the FSC is auditing for sustainable forestry. This slide shows how the tray works and consequently how it breaks down. We use a very thin plastic liner to hold the paperboard together, and this is done through heat, so no glue or adhesives of any kind. And this thin plastic liner holds that tray together, and removing that liner is what separates the two components for recycling. So you would recycle the poly, and then you would recycle the paperboard. In the European streams, and also I think in Canada, the recycling stream alone will do this by itself. But here in America, at least for now, we would have to follow similar instructions to what you see here. This slide shows a general product portfolio. There's many new dimensional shapes and sizes that are underway, but the key points on the portfolio is that I want you to understand is that it can be vacuum skim packed, it can be microwavable, it can be ovenable, and up to a certain extent, or modified atmosphere. I do get that question a lot on modified atmosphere. Will it hold the gas flush? The answer is yes. We have proven to hold that up to 18 days, which is a lot more than current applications do. I think this is a nice picture for showing graphics. I think I've bought things before on eye appeal. I think that eye appeal equals buy appeal sometimes. We already talked about using substrates on paperboard for intelligent packaging. So because this is also paperboard, it can be printed all over. This offers operational efficiencies for you and additional material reduction by getting rid of labels, getting rid of any stickers or extra sleeves, or even kind of secondary corrugate boxes. Now all that marketing and a lot of the reasons that those might be used can now go right on the package itself. Just a small case study using that same example. Reducing those components on this traditional vacuum skin pack retail tray and moving to a same size Halo Pack vacuum skin pack tray results in a 94% reduction in plastic when you take into account the plastic tray itself, the label, and the top film used to seal those packages. So a lot of benefits and features, but the key points that I hope for takeaways are, one, we are striving for a drop-in replacement with those familiar retail sizes that we have available. For seafood, this still means meeting vacuum skin pack desires. It still means meeting barrier needs for frozen. Still means meeting the 10K needs for fresh. Two, enhanced marketing opportunities to get rid of sleeves, additional labels, boxes with the 360-degree printing, and three, the microwave or oven options for the increase in the value-added categories for seafood is a big positive. It's ideal for all kinds of foods and cuisine scenarios because it is moisture and airtight, unlike a lot of the previous fiber-based options. And although it is new in the Americas, as I mentioned, there is already lots of data, lots of documentation, proven solutions, and just years of expertise due to the high level adoption already in Europe. So with that, I'll kind of wrap it up. Some key takeaways for today. Globally, thousands of companies, government, intergovernmental agencies, NGOs, other seafood and ocean stakeholders, we're all working to improve the sustainability of seafood resources and supply chains. Those macro sustainability issues of most concern being transparency and the resource use. I think that in seafood, it's always a ripe industry for safety and quality improvements. There's always a need for shelf life. But also, if we want to continue to grow those seafood eaters in America, we have to emphasize that consumer experience that I touched on. Packaging is at the forefront of consumers' minds because of this resource use and because of this experience. So it is critical for us to be strategic about this final phase of the seafood sale. I also mentioned flavors and colors being a powerful cue to support product positioning to consumers. When we think about seafood eaters trying to live a more healthy lifestyle, these shoppers are also seeking out complementary functional foods to support that holistic health. And they want these things without sacrificing sensory experience. Shoppers are looking for more ways to cut corners on time, but not on taste, of course. And at Aptar, we think real innovation is not just about products, services, or channels to the market, but rather the ability to change your business model itself when necessary to meet market needs. As I mentioned in the very beginning, we've helped over 5,000 of the world's top brands to do this very thing. And as packaging manufacturers, we feel the importance every day of advertising innovative research and development efforts in packaging. And then now with this Halo Pack, what we've tried to do is really merge technology, convenience, and value for seafood suppliers and eaters alike. So thank you to those that joined today. This does conclude it for me. Now I will hand it back to you, Jovine, to help us look at any questions that came through.
Perfect. So we're now moving into the Q&A portion of today's webinar. If you have not already done so, or if you would like to ask a question, make sure you submit them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We do have some great questions here to get started with. Our first question here, what is the shelf life, freezer life for the case study item?
It probably doesn't say, but I'm for the package itself or for the food therein. For the food therein, it's going to stay the same as any other vacuum skin pack package that you're currently working with. But if the question is related to the shelf life on the packaging, we do 1 year. 1 year is what we can guarantee on that, on just the packaging itself. This is because of the recyclable components of that product's the paperboard composition. However, we are looking on how we can more long-term data to support a longer guarantee on the shelf life of the packaging. But shelf life of the food should be exactly the same. You still got all those same barrier properties as before, whether you're using specs on frozen or fresh applications. Hope that helps.
Thanks, Krista. We have another question here. It's a little bit of a longer one, but they are wondering, we are looking for a package that we can pack raw seafood in that is seasoned and ready to cook. We would like it to be steamed in the package it comes in, yet be sealed like your Seawell pack for shelf life and display. Is that possible?
For sure. Yes. So I would have to make sure that I understand the steam part. I assume the steam is meant to happen inside the packaging, not like putting in a sous vide or something like that, but should be fine. We have a lot of applications now that are, whether it's hot or cold packed food that's going into the freezer, stored in the freezer, shipped in the freezer, even at home. And the consumers pull it out and they're ready to microwave it or oven it straight from the freezer. So from what it sounds like, yes, it should be able to support that.
Another question here. Most major seafood companies implement skin packaging. Do you believe this will be the main packaging style moving forward in the market?
I could certainly hope so. These drop-in replacements, I do. So the only hang up there is a lot of these Harpak Ulma machines kind of form a tray on a roll stock. So this tray, this type of packaging does come already formed and ready. So you would really only be able to use that sealing portion of those machines. But obviously, there's ways around it. We can obviously help support any sort of transitions and certainly want to help you optimize using all the equipment and resources that you already have. But I did use that one as just a case study because I knew it would be a very familiar type of package in the market. But you could make a one-to-one transition from that type of package to this without losing anything on shelf life or quality.
Thank you, Krista. Another question here. What is the max oven time and temperature the paper trays can cook?
Oven time is 375 for 2 hours. This has been a recent endeavor for us to try to see what we can do for future, especially with some of these innovative coatings or some sort of manufacturing process of paperboard itself. But paper has a flash point of 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So unfortunately, we can't get to those 425s, or I'd even be worried about going up to 400 because of that flash point. These things it's paper, so it can actually catch on fire. But we are approved. Everything is fine for 375 for 2 hours.
Okay, thank you. Another question here. What H2R labels are assigned to the proposed case study item?
Oof. I may have to answer that after the call. So this just came through last week and we were very excited about it. But that was not my project. We did get the logo, we did get the approval, we have the documentation that we could actually share with suppliers so that the hope is they don't have to apply for it. They can just use ours. But I'm not sure exactly which one it is, but we are more than happy to share that with you if you want to send me an email after. We'll be able to answer that specific to which label it is. Sorry for that.
No problem there. Another question here. What can we put on our packaging in terms of recycling information if we use sustainable packaging material?
So a few things. You can put whatever you want on there. One of our previous ones just put a plain description. This was before how to recycle was really as widely used as it is now. Um, or now you can use our how to recycle logo, which is on a lot of packages you have in your house. You're starting to see it on everything. Um, but the one slide that I showed, the peeling away, um, I have a lot of really cool images that some of the European users have used. So we actually put that infographic on the packaging somewhere. Um, and that was just one example. We've got several that look really nice. So we're also welcome to use one of those types of infographics as art on the package itself to communicate how to recycle that package. Good question.
Another question here. Does this packaging hold up in freezer and refrigerated conditions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the majority of our applications, not all, but a lot of them are either a frozen meal or a refrigerated meal. Um, and whether that food is previously cooked and then reheated or it's raw. Somebody asked about raw seafood. Regardless, frozen, refrigerated, cooked or raw, a lot of those are um, uh, put into just they're sold frozen, they're distributed frozen, they're even kind of stored frozen in the home, and then cooked straight from there. So holds up very well. We have, again, I've got some documentation I can share on that, but we also continuously run observations on these types of conditions as part of our own internal quality checks. Our freezer is at negative 15 Fahrenheit with some fluctuations. We do that to mimic transportation overseas. So we'll take those quality checks over up to 60 days, assuming that it might be in frozen conditions on the water for a long transport. We also test the food in the microwave, things of that nature. So holds up very well. And again, we still offer that 1 year shelf life on it.
Thank you. Another question here. Is there a tray solution that is suitable for cold chain e-commerce as well as oven safe and ready after defrosting?
I assume that it would be frozen, defrosted in the package, and then from there on become a refrigerated cold product. Yes. So biggest concern there I get is like condensation or moisture on the outside of the package, but that's all fine. We can use some coatings if necessary. The paperboard itself is pretty robust. There's some things that we do to help that. But if we're really, really concerned about a big change in temperature, a lot of sweating on that package, there's coatings that can help perform in a wet environment from those frozen to refrigerated temperature fluctuating scenarios.
Another question here. Are custom designs an option?
For sure. I wasn't able to show them, but we've recently done a bowl and some really oblong, cool shapes for salad companies. Some of these are even, the art's really cool, but they're even more special because they use kind of these window cutouts to do like the shape of their brand logo. That's something that I didn't show was the examples of windows, but if you have a product and it's really important to see it, and you want to see inside of it, we have unique designs, ways to accomplish that. So all custom, doing a lot of custom stuff right now. So yes.
Another question here. How are the film lids being applied and under what conditions, such as type of adhesive and temperature?
Okay. Currently, they're being top sealed or vacuumed. So that poly liner actually extends out onto the flange. That's why most of these trays have a flange. It is intended to be top sealed right now or vacuum skin packed. Although we have a big project going on right now, today actually, to hopefully achieve overwrap applications. So top seal vacuum or overwrap will work soon. Um, Overwrap, there's quite a bit of tension in those, so there's some special attention on making these paperboard trays strong enough to withstand that kind of tension on the pulling. But for top seal or vacuum skin pack applications, any normal existing piece of equipment will do it. That poly liner is PE based, so any compatible film you want to use is acceptable. It will stick. It'll stick and be strong enough to even make those trays stackable. So, and really anything you want to use. Temperature wise, we are noticing some equipment temperature and even the dwell time having to change. So, but these are minor adjustments on settings on existing pieces of machinery for people. I
Okay,
hope that answers.
thank you. So it looks like that was our last question for today's session. Krista, is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we close out?
No, I've left my contact information up on the screen. So of course, and I think you're sending out a recording maybe, and at least the presentation. So my contact information is there. Really appreciate everybody joining today, and feel free to reach out anytime. Happy to discuss any projects. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So before we close out today, I do have a few final housekeeping notes to cover. If you could please fill out the short evaluation form that will appear on the webinar console. This will help us better serve your needs in future webinars. As a reminder, the on-demand materials will be emailed to everyone within 2 business days. This will include a PDF of the slides, as well as a link to the recording of today's presentation. Thank you again to Krista for a great presentation today, and thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time out of your busy days to join us. This webinar was brought to you by Seafood Source and sponsored by Aptar. Thank you all, and have a great day.